Commander Victor stood in the command center of his flagship, looking down at the planet below. Epsilon 7 was a small human colony world, nothing special. Just farms and mining operations. 3,000 of his best warriors had landed 2 days ago. The humans had barely fought back. Now the colony was surrounded. The humans had retreated to their central settlement, trapped like animals in a cage. Victor had sent messages demanding surrender. The humans had not responded. It did not matter. By tomorrow, the colony would be his. A communication officer approached, his scales flickering with amusement. "Commander, we have intercepted a human transmission." "What do they say?" Victor asked. "Are they ready to surrender?" "No, Commander. They are requesting military support from their government." Victor laughed. It was a harsh sound that echoed through the command center. "Of course they are. How long until human reinforcements arrive?" The officer checked his display. "Our intelligence estimates at least 5 days, Commander. But there is something else." "What?" "The humans have received a response. They are sending help immediately." Victor felt a surge of satisfaction. Good. Let the humans send their forces. Let them try to break through his blockade. The Krellian Empire would crush them and teach humanity a lesson about challenging their betters. How many ships? How many soldiers? The officer's scales flickered brighter. He was trying not to laugh. "No ships, Commander. No soldiers. They are sending one person." Victor stared at him. "One person?" "Yes, Commander. A single operative." The transmission mentioned his call sign. The officer paused, his voice shaking with suppressed laughter. "They call him Honey Badger." The command center fell silent for a moment. Then someone started laughing. Within seconds, the entire room filled with the harsh laughter of Krellian warriors. Even Victor could not help himself. He laughed until his sides hurt. "One person," he said, gasping for breath. "One person against 3,000 of our finest warriors." And they give him the name of some small earth animal. His second in command, Sub-Commander Telmark, stepped forward. "It must be a mistake, Commander." "Perhaps they meant one unit? One company?" "No," the communications officer said, still grinning. The transmission was clear. "One operative. Already en route." Victor wiped his eyes. This was too perfect. The humans were so desperate that they were sending a single soldier. It was almost sad. Almost. "Tell me about this honey badger," Victor said. "What kind of creature is it?" One of the younger officers pulled up information on his console. "It is a small mammal from Earth, Commander. Mass approximately 12 kilograms. It has a reputation for being aggressive and difficult to kill, but it is hardly a threat to anything larger than itself." More laughter filled the room. Victor felt his mood improve even more. This was a gift. The humans had given him a gift. "Open a channel to the human colony," he ordered. "I want to speak to whoever is in charge down there." The communications officer worked quickly. "Channel open, Commander." Victor composed himself, forcing his face into a serious expression. "Humans of Epsilon 7, this is Commander Victor of the Krellian Empire. I am giving you one final chance to surrender peacefully." A woman's voice responded. She sounded tired but defiant. "This is Lisa Grant, Colonial Defense Coordinator. We will not surrender to invaders. Ms. Grant, we have intercepted your communications. We know that your government is sending help. We know that help consists of exactly one person." Victor paused, letting the words sink in. "One person with the call sign Honey Badger." Lisa Grant said nothing. "Do you understand how pathetic this is?" Victor continued. "Your government has abandoned you. They send one person because you are not worth saving. They send someone named after a small animal because they want to give you false hope before you die." "You don't understand," Lisa Grant said quietly. You don't know what you're talking about. Victor laughed again. I understand perfectly. I have 3,000 warriors on your world. Warriors who are stronger than humans, faster than humans, better equipped than humans. And your government sends one person. Please, explain to me what I do not understand. Jake Morrison is not just one person, Lisa Grant said. He's a dead man, Victor interrupted. When my warriors capture him, and they will, I am going to put him on display. I will show all of humanity what happens when they challenge the Krellian Empire. I will show them that their heroes are nothing but small, weak creatures who die easily. He cut the transmission before Lisa Grant could respond. The command center burst into applause and laughter. His warriors were enjoying this. Commander, Telmark said, what are your orders? Victor thought for a moment. This human, this honey badger, he will arrive soon. I want him alive. Send out scout teams. When they locate him, they are to capture him with minimal damage. I want him conscious and able to speak when I present him to the colonists. Yes, Commander. How many teams should I send? 50 warriors should be more than sufficient for one human. Spread them around the perimeter. The moment he lands, I want him found. Telmark saluted and moved to carry out the orders. Victor returned to the viewport, looking down at the planet. Somewhere down there, a human was about to make the worst mistake of his life, in the hidden command bunker beneath the colony. Lisa Grant sat in front of her communications console. Her hands were shaking. Around her, 20 civilians worked at various stations, trying to coordinate the defense of their home. He's really coming? One of them asked. It was Chris Palmer, a young man who had worked as a surveyor before the invasion. Just Jake? Nobody else? That's what they said, Lisa replied. She pulled up a file on her screen. Jake Morrison Special Forces. Multiple deployments in hostile territory. Success rate of 98%. What about the other 2%? Someone asked nervously. Lisa read further. Those were missions where evacuation became impossible and targets had to be eliminated instead of captured. He still completed the objectives. She scrolled down. It says here that he earned his call sign during the Rigel operation. Refused to withdraw when ordered. Stayed behind enemy lines for 3 weeks, completing the mission despite being wounded, outnumbered, and out of supplies. Chris leaned over her shoulder. What does honey badger mean? Why that name? Lisa pulled up an old Earth nature documentary. A small black and white animal appeared on screen, fighting off lions and hyenas and snakes. It got hurt but kept fighting. It got bitten but kept fighting. It never stopped, never retreated, never gave up. That's why, Lisa said softly. On the screen, the honey badger drove away a group of lions from a kill. The lions were bigger, stronger, more dangerous. But the honey badger did not care. It wanted what it wanted, and nothing would stop it. One person, Chris whispered. They really sent one person. They sent the right person, Lisa said. She thought about Victor's laughter, his mockery, his absolute confidence. The Krellian commander thought this was funny. He thought he had already won. He had no idea what was coming. High above the planet, a small insertion pod separated from a stealth courier ship. Inside, Jake Morrison checked his equipment one final time. He had basic weapons, basic supplies, basic gear. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would slow him down. The pod shook as it hit the atmosphere. Jake watched the altimeter count down. 50,000 meters. 40,000. 30,000. He thought about the colonists below, trapped and afraid. He thought about Commander Victor and his 3,000 warriors. He thought about the odds. Then Jake smiled. He had faced worse odds before. Much worse. The pod's retro rockets fired at 5,000 meters. At 1,000 meters, the side panels blew away. At 500 meters, Jake jumped. He fell through the night sky, parachute deploying above him. Below, he could see the lights of the colony and the Krellian encampment surrounding it. Somewhere down there, Victor was waiting. Confident and comfortable, Jake landed in the forest outside the colony perimeter. He buried his parachute, checked his weapons, and started moving. 3,000 warriors. 50 sent to find him already. Time to get to work. He activated his communicator. Honey Badger to Colonial Defense. I'm on the ground. Beginning operations. Lisa Grant's voice came back immediately. Confirmed, Honey Badger. Good luck. Jake did not respond to that. Luck had nothing to do with it. This was about persistence. About refusing to quit. About being the kind of person who kept fighting no matter what. In the darkness, Jake Morrison moved toward the enemy positions. Behind him, the forest was quiet. Ahead, Krellian warriors were laughing and joking, thinking this would be easy. They would learn. Soon, they would all learn. Honey Badger did not care about their numbers. Honey Badger did not care about their technology. Honey Badger did not give up. The Krellian scout team moved through the forest in standard formation. 6 warriors spread out in a line, their advanced sensors sweeping the area. They had been searching for 3 hours and found nothing. This is a waste of time, one of them muttered. One human could be anywhere. The forest is huge. The team leader checked his display. Command wants him found. We keep searching. For one person? We should be resting. Tomorrow we take the colony. Unless you want to explain to Commander Victor why you disobeyed orders, you will keep moving. The warriors continued forward. Their sensors showed nothing unusual. Just trees, rocks, and small animals. No heat signatures. No movement. No sign of any human. Jake watched them from his position 40 meters away. He had been tracking this team for an hour, learning their patterns. The Krellians relied too much on their technology. They trusted their sensors completely. That was their first mistake. He had covered himself in mud and local plant material. The thermal signature was masked. He stayed downwind. He moved only when they moved. And he waited. The scout team passed below his position. Jake counted to 30, then dropped from the tree. He landed behind the last warrior in line, knife already moving. The Krellian died without making a sound. Jake dragged the body into the undergrowth and kept moving. The other warriors continued forward, not noticing that their team was now 5 instead of 6. 2 minutes later, Jake struck again. The second warrior was checking his sensor when Jake appeared from behind a large tree. Another knife strike. Another body hidden. The team leader noticed something was wrong when he checked his tactical display. Team, report status. 4 voices responded. The leader's scales rippled with confusion. Where are 6 and 5? Silence. 6 and 5 respond immediately. Jake was already moving toward the third warrior. This one was looking around nervously, weapon raised. Jake waited until a branch fell nearby, drawing the warrior's attention. Then he moved 3 down. 3 to go. The remaining warriors clustered together, weapons pointing in all directions. The team leader activated his communicator. Command, this is Scout Team 7. We have contact. 2 warriors down. Possibly 3. Sub-Commander Telmark's voice came back. What is your position? What are you engaging? Unknown, Commander. We cannot see the enemy. Our sensors show nothing. How can you have contact with an enemy you cannot see? 3 of my warriors are missing, Commander. They were here, and now they are not. Jake listened to the conversation from his new position. The Krellians were scared now. Good. Fear made people sloppy. He picked up a rock and threw it to the left. All 3 warriors spun toward the sound, firing their weapons. The energy blast lit up the forest, destroying trees and setting fires. While they were distracted, Jake moved to the right. He came up behind the fourth warrior and struck. The Krellian tried to shout a warning, but Jake's hand covered his mouth. 4 down. The team leader spun around just in time to see his warrior fall. "There!" he shouted, firing wildly. Jake was already gone, melting back into the shadows. The 2 remaining Krellians stood back to back, weapons ready, searching desperately for a target they could not find. "This is Scout Team 7, the leader said into his communicator. His voice was shaking, requesting immediate backup. 4 warriors down. Enemy is using stealth tactics. Our sensors cannot detect him. Backup is coming, Telmark responded. Hold your position. Jake circled around the 2 warriors. They were good soldiers, he would give them that. They stayed calm, watching their sectors, not panicking. But they were thinking like Krellians. They expected an enemy they could see and fight. He climbed another tree, moving silently from branch to branch until he was directly above them. Then he waited. The backup arrived 10 minutes later. 20 Krellian warriors, heavily armed, spreading out to search the area. They found the bodies of the 4 dead scouts. They found the 2 survivors, still standing back to back, still searching for an enemy they could not see. What happened here? The backup leader demanded. I do not know, the scout team leader said. He was just gone. One moment the warrior was there, the next moment he was dead. We never saw him. Our sensors never detected him. Impossible. Our sensors can detect anything. Then explained the bodies. The backup leader had no answer for that. He activated his communicator. Sub-Commander Telmark, this is Backup Team 3. Scout Team 7 has suffered 80% casualties. No sign of the enemy. Recommend we withdraw and orbital strike this sector. In the command center, Victor listened to the report. His amusement from earlier had faded. 4 warriors dead. 2 more traumatized. All from one human they never saw coming. No orbital strikes, he said firmly. I want this human alive. Send 200 warriors. Sweep the entire forest. He cannot hide from that many. Telmark looked uncertain. Commander, perhaps this human is more dangerous than we thought. Perhaps we should take him more seriously. He killed 4 warriors through stealth and surprise. That is all. With 200 warriors searching, he will have nowhere to hide. Find him. Capture him. Bring him to me. The order went out. 200 Krellian warriors deployed into the forest, moving in coordinated teams. They were angry now. 4 of their own had died to a single human. This was an insult that demanded revenge. Jake watched the deployment from a ridge overlooking the valley. 200 warriors. That was more serious. He could not use the same tactics against that many. Time to adapt. He moved deeper into the forest, toward the river he had scouted earlier. The Krellians would expect him to run, to hide, to avoid contact. So he would do the opposite. Inside the colony, Katie Brooks worked in the makeshift hospital. She was a civilian, a medic who had been trained to handle mining accidents and farming injuries. Now she was treating people injured in the invasion. Burns from energy weapons. Broken bones from collapsed buildings. Families separated and afraid. She had heard about Jake Morrison, about the honey badger coming to save them. Part of her wanted to believe. Part of her thought it was insane to send one person against 3,000. Lisa Grant appeared in the doorway. Katie, can you spare a moment? Katie washed her hands and followed Lisa to the communication room. What is it? We are picking up Krellian transmissions. Jake has engaged their forces. And? Lisa pulled up the intercepts. 4 enemy casualties. No human casualties. The Krellians are confused and scared. They cannot find him. Katie read the reports, her eyes widening. He is fighting 200 of them now? Not fighting, harassing, making them chase shadows, forcing them to waste energy and resources. Lisa smiled. Jake is not trying to win a battle. He's trying to make them defeat themselves. Will it work? It's already working. Listen to their communications. They are frustrated, angry, making mistakes. Commander Victor thought this would be easy. Now he is learning that humans do not fight the way he expected. Katie thought about the honey badger video Lisa had shown earlier. The small animal that refused to quit, that fought enemies much larger than itself. How long can one person keep this up? As long as necessary, Lisa said quietly. That is what makes him dangerous. He will not stop. He will not surrender. He will keep fighting until either they leave or he dies. And I do not think Jake Morrison plans to die. In the forest, Jake reached the river. He had prepared this position earlier, during his first hour on the ground. Simple traps, nothing fancy. Tripwires connected to small explosives. False trails leading to dead ends. A few surprises for anyone who came looking. He heard the Krellian warriors approaching, crashing through the undergrowth like a herd of animals. They were being loud on purpose, trying to flush him out. They thought numbers would overwhelm him. Jake smiled and activated the first trap. The explosion echoed through the forest. Krellian warriors shouted in alarm. 3 went down, injured but not dead. The rest scattered, taking cover, searching for the threat. Jake triggered the second trap on the opposite side. More explosions. More confusion. The Krellians did not know where the attacks were coming from. He is here, someone shouted. Surround this area. Jake was already moving, crossing the river at a shallow point he had scouted earlier. Behind him, the Krellians converged on his old position. Finding nothing but empty traps and false trails dot, by the time they realized he was gone, Jake was 2 kilometers away. Setting up his next ambush, Sub-Commander Telmark received the reports with growing concern. 7 warriors now injured. 0 human casualties. 0 sightings of the enemy. The search teams were becoming paranoid, jumping at every sound, wasting ammunition on shadows. Commander Victor, he said carefully, this human is using our tactics against us. He knows we rely on our sensors, so he defeats them. He knows we have superior numbers, so he refuses to engage directly. He's fighting a different kind of war. Victor stared at him. The laughter from earlier seemed like a distant memory. What do you suggest? Pull our warriors back. Defend the perimeter. Let him come to us. No, that would show weakness. We are Krellians. We do not retreat from one human. Then, we continue losing warriors to an enemy we cannot see. Victor's scales darkened with anger. Send 500 warriors. Systematic sweep. Every meter of forest. I do not care how long it takes to find him. Telmark saluted and left. As he organized the new deployment, he could not shake a growing feeling of unease. Jake Morrison had been on Epsilon 7 for 48 hours. He had not slept more than 20 minutes at a time. He had eaten only protein bars and water. His body ached from constant movement. His hands were cut and bruised, and his ammunition was running low. None of that mattered. The mission mattered. The colonists mattered. Winning mattered. He crouched on a hillside overlooking a Krellian supply depot. 500 warriors were now searching the forests, but that meant they had pulled soldiers from other duties. Like guarding supplies, the depot had only 15 guards. They stood at regular intervals, watching the perimeter. Their sensors swept the area constantly. They were alert and professional. Jake had been watching them for 3 hours, learning their patrol patterns, identifying their weak points. The guards changed every 4 hours. During the change, there was a brief moment when positions overlapped and sight lines crossed. 30 seconds where the guards were distracted, looking at their replacements instead of the perimeter. He waited for that moment. When the new guards arrived, Jake moved. He crossed 50 meters of open ground in complete silence, using vehicles and equipment for cover. The guards never looked his way. By the time the shift change was complete, Jake was inside the perimeter. The supply depot held ammunition, fuel, medical supplies, and communications equipment. Jake moved through it quickly, placing small charges on critical equipment. Not enough to destroy everything, just enough to cause problems. He found the communications relay and paused. This was important. He pulled out a small device that Chris Palmer had given him during the insertion briefing. A transmitter that would let him access Krellian communication networks. Jake attached the device to the relay, activated it, and moved on. Now he could hear what the Krellians were saying. Now he could know where they were going before they got there. He placed the last charge on a fuel tank and checked his timer. 5 minutes. Time to go. Jake slipped out the same way he entered, crossing the perimeter during another moment of distraction. He was 200 meters away when the charges detonated. The explosions were small but effective. Fuel tanks ruptured, spreading fire. Communications equipment sparked and died. Ammunition cooked off in smaller secondary explosions. Guards shouted in alarm, running to contain the damage. Jake listened to their communications, hearing the panic and confusion. Commander Victor's voice came over the channel, demanding explanations. Nobody had any. How did he get inside? Victor shouted. You had 15 guards. Sensors covering every approach. How did one human penetrate your security? The depot commander had no answer. Jake smiled and started moving toward his next target. In the Colonial Command bunker, Lisa Grant watched the Krellian communications with growing hope. The enemy was rattled. They were making mistakes. They were afraid. Jake just hit their supply depot. She told the civilians around her. He is cutting their support lines. Chris Palmer looked at the tactical display. The Krellians are pulling more warriors from the perimeter to chase him. Look at this gap here on the western side. Lisa saw it immediately. A section of the Krellian line had thinned to only 20 warriors. Can we get people out through there? Maybe, if we are careful. Start organizing evacuation teams. Priority the children and injured. We move tonight while the Krellians are distracted. Chris started making calls, spreading the word quietly. 50 civilians would make a run for it. If they could reach the caves 10 kilometers west, they could hide there until human reinforcements arrived. Katie Brooks was among those selected to go. She protested at first, wanting to stay with the wounded, but Lisa was firm. We need you alive, Lisa said. When this is over, we will need every medic we have. Besides, someone needs to guide the children. They trust you. Katie finally agreed. She gathered the children, 15 of them, all scared and confused. She told them they were going on an adventure, that they needed to be brave and quiet. As night fell, the evacuation began. 50 people moving through the darkness, heading for the gap in the Krellian lines. They carried only basic supplies, moving as quietly as possible. Jake knew about the evacuation because Lisa had told him. He positioned himself between the civilians and the nearest Krellian patrol, ready to create a distraction if needed. The civilians made it through the gap without incident. Katie Brooks led the children into the forest, following Chris Palmer, who had volunteered to guide them. Behind them, the colony grew smaller in the distance. Jake watched them go, feeling a small sense of satisfaction. 50 people safe. That was 50 reasons his mission mattered. Then he returned to work. The Krellian Command Center was a fortified building in the middle of their main encampment. It had heavy security, armed guards, and multiple layers of defense. Taking it directly would be suicide. So Jake did not take it directly. Instead, He targeted the power generator 200 meters away. The generator was protected, but not as heavily as the command center. 6 guards, sensors, barriers. Jake approached from downwind, moving slowly. He had learned that Krellian sensors had a weakness. They were calibrated for fast movement, designed to detect vehicles and rapid advances. Slow, careful movement barely registered that it took him an hour to cross 100 meters. The guards never saw him. Their sensors never alerted. Jake planted charges on the generator's cooling system. When it failed, the generator would overheat and shut down. The command center would lose power for approximately 15 minutes before backup systems engaged. 15 minutes of darkness and confusion. 15 minutes where Commander Victor would be blind and vulnerable. Jake set the timer for dawn, when the Krellians would be changing shifts and least alert. Then he withdrew, moving back into the forest. Commander Victor stood in his command center, studying the tactical displays. The human had been on the planet for 2 days. In that time, he had killed or injured 67 Krellian warriors. He had destroyed a supply depot, disabled multiple communication relays, and somehow evaded 500 soldiers searching for him. "This is unacceptable," Victor said. "How can one human cause this much damage?" Telmark looked tired. He had been coordinating the search efforts personally, with no success. "He is not fighting us directly, Commander. He strikes from stealth, causes damage, and disappears before we can respond. Our warriors cannot fight an enemy they cannot see. Then make them see him. Use thermal imaging, motion sensors, acoustic detection. Use everything we have." "We are, Commander." The human defeats all of it. He covers his thermal signature. He moves too slowly for motion sensors. He makes no sound. It is like fighting a ghost. Victor's scales darkened. Ghosts do not exist. He is flesh and blood. He can be killed. "Of course, Commander. But first we must find him. What about the civilians? The ones who escaped last night?" Telmark looked uncomfortable. "We discovered the breach too late. They are gone. 50 humans walked through our lines and nobody noticed?" "The human, Morrison, he created diversions. Small attacks that drew our attention elsewhere. By the time we realized what was happening, the civilians were beyond our reach." Victor slammed his fist on the console. "This is humiliating. We are the Krellian Empire. We have conquered dozens of worlds. And one human is making us look like fools. Permission to speak freely, Commander?" "Granted." Telmark chose his words carefully. "Perhaps we have underestimated the humans. Not because they are stronger or better equipped, but because they think differently. This operative, Morrison, he does not try to match our strength. He uses our expectations against us. He knows we rely on technology, so he defeats it. He knows we fight with honor and open battle, so he refuses to engage that way. You think we should retreat? Let one human drive away the entire Krellian invasion force? No, Commander. But perhaps we should adapt our tactics. Fight him the way he fights us." Victor considered this. His pride demanded that he crush this human through superior force. But his tactical training told him that Telmark was right. Continuing the same approach would only lead to more losses. "What do you suggest?" "Pull our forces back to the colony perimeter. Concentrate our strength. Let him come to us. When he does, we will be ready." Before Victor could respond, the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in after a few seconds, casting the command center in dim red illumination. Consoles flickered and died. Communications went silent. What happened? Victor demanded that an engineer rush to a backup terminal. "The main generator is offline, Commander. Cooling system failure. It will take 15 minutes to switch to backup power." 15 minutes? Victor looked at Telmark. "The human did this." "Yes, Commander. He is showing us that even here, in our fortified command center, we are vulnerable. Victor stood in the dim red light, feeling a cold rage building. This human had made a fool of him, had killed his warriors, destroyed his supplies, freed his prisoners, all while remaining invisible, untouchable. No more games. No more mercy. When power is restored, Victor said quietly, send 1,000 warriors into the forest. Kill everything that moves. Burn the trees if you must. I want this human found, and I want him dead. Forget about capturing him alive. I want his body. Telmark hesitated. Commander, that will leave only 2,000 warriors to hold the colony. 2,000 is more than enough. The humans are broken. They have. The sun rose on the third day. 1,000 Krellian warriors moved into the forest in a coordinated sweep. They advanced in lines, weapons ready, determined to find and kill the human who had embarrassed their commander. Jake Morrison was not in the forest. He was inside the colony, hidden in the basement of an abandoned building. Getting inside had been risky. The Krellian perimeter was thinner now, but still dangerous. Jake had waited until just before dawn during the guard change, and slipped through using a captured Krellian uniform and the biometric spoofer that Chris Palmer had provided. The spoofer was crude, barely functional, but it fooled the Krellian sensors long enough for Jake to get inside. Now he was in the heart of enemy territory, exactly where they would never expect him to be. Lisa Grant had been busy. The 50 civilians who escaped had spread the word to other colonies. Human resistance was forming across the planet. But more importantly, Lisa had organized the people trapped inside this colony. Jake met with her in a hidden room beneath what used to be the town hall. 20 other civilians were there, all determined to fight. This is everyone? Jake asked. Lisa nodded. Everyone who can hold a weapon and is willing to use it. We have 40 more who will provide support. Medical, communications, logistics. Jake looked at the 20 fighters. They were farmers, miners, engineers. Not soldiers. But they were angry and they were desperate. That would have to be enough. The Krellians have sent 1,000 warriors into the forest to search for me, Jake explained. That leaves 2,000 in the colony area. Most of those are on the perimeter, watching for external threats. Inside the colony, they have maybe 200 warriors maintaining control. 200 is still too many, one of the civilians said. His name was Danny Price, a mining foreman. We are not trained soldiers. No, but you have advantages. You know this colony. You know every building, every tunnel, every shortcut. The Krellians do not. And they are not expecting resistance from inside. Katie Brooks spoke up from where she stood near the back. I thought you were staying in the forest. What changed? I cannot win in the forest. Not against 1,000 warriors. But I can win here, with your help. Jake spread out a map of the colony. The Krellians have established command posts at these locations. They control the power station, the communications hub, and the main gates. If we take those, we control the colony. How? Lisa asked. They are heavily defended. They were heavily defended when they expected external attacks. Now they think the threat is in the forest. Their attention is divided. They have pulled their best warriors to hunt me. What remains are second-tier troops, less experienced, less alert. Danny frowned. You are asking us to attack trained warriors with hunting rifles and mining equipment. I am asking you to fight for your home. The Krellians think you are beaten. They think you are helpless. Show them they are wrong. Jake looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. I have been fighting for 3 days. I have killed and injured many of them. But I cannot do this alone. I need your help. All of you. Not because I think you are soldiers, but because you are what the Krellians do not expect. You are people who refuse to give up. Silence filled the room. Then Katie Brooks stepped forward. "I will help. Tell me what to do." One by one, others stepped forward. Danny, Lisa, all 20 fighters. They were scared, but they were ready. Jake spent the next hour explaining the plan. It was simple because complicated plans fell apart under pressure. 3 teams, 3 targets. Simultaneous strikes timed for maximum confusion. Team 1 would hit the power station, cut the power to the Krellian command center and defensive systems. Team 2 would take the communications hub, prevent the Krellians from calling for help or coordinating a response. Team 3, led by Jake, would assault the main command post where Victor was located. "When do we move?" Lisa asked. "Tonight. The Krellians in the forest will realize I am not there by late afternoon. They will start returning. We need to strike before they get back." The day passed slowly. Jake caught a few hours of sleep, his first real rest in 3 days. The civilians prepared weapons and equipment. Katie Brooks organized medical supplies. Lisa coordinated with the support teams, making sure everyone knew their roles. As evening approached, Jake made one final check of his equipment. His ammunition was low. His body was exhausted, but his mind was clear. This was what he had trained for. This was what he did best. Chris Palmer's voice came through his communicator. "Jake, this is Chris. I am monitoring Krellian communications. The search teams in the forest are reporting no contact. They are starting to suspect you are not there." "Good. How long until they start pulling back?" "Maybe 2 hours. You need to move soon." "Understood. Tell Lisa to initiate." Jake met with the assault teams at the designated staging areas. Each team had 5 to 7 people. They were nervous but determined. Some had never fired a weapon in combat. Some had never hurt another living being. "Remember," Jake told them, "the Krellians are bigger and stronger. Do not fight them head-on. Use speed and surprise. Hit them fast, then move to the next target. We are not trying to win a fair fight. We are trying to win. Period." Team 1 moved out first, heading for the power station. Team 2 followed 5 minutes later. Jake waited with Team 3, watching the clock count down at exactly 8 in the evening. The power went out across the colony. Team 1 had succeeded. Jake's team moved immediately, advancing on the main command post. They could hear shouting in the distance as Krellians reacted to the power failure. Emergency lights flickered on, casting strange shadows. The command post had 8 guards outside. Jake took down the first 2 with his rifle before they could react. The civilians opened fire on the others, their shots less accurate but no less effective. Within 30 seconds, all 8 guards were down. Jake planted breaching charges on the door, and everyone took cover. The explosion blew the door inward. Jake went through first, weapon up, scanning for targets. The command post interior was chaos. Krellian officers rushed around in the emergency lighting, trying to restore systems and figure out what was happening. They were not ready for an attack from inside. Jake's team poured through the door, firing as they came. The Krellians grabbed for weapons, but the surprise was complete. Within 2 minutes, the command post was secured. Jake found what he was looking for in the central control room. Commander Victor, surrounded by 6 guards, standing over a communications console. "You," Victor said, his voice filled with hatred. "How are you here? You should be in the forest. Should I?" Jake kept his weapon trained on the commander. "Your guards. Tell them to drop their weapons. Now." Victor hesitated. His guards looked to him for orders. Jake could see the calculation in the commander's eyes. 6 trained warriors against 1 tired human. The odds seemed good. "Do not make me kill them," Jake said quietly. "I have killed enough of your people. Tell them to stand down. You are surrounded. Victor said. Even if you take this command post, my warriors will retake it. You cannot win. I already won. Your forces are scattered. Your command structure is broken. Your communications are cut. In 5 minutes, human reinforcements will drop into orbit. They were waiting for my signal. This signal. Jake pressed a button on his wrist device. Somewhere in space, Chris Palmer received the transmission and forwarded it to the incoming human fleet. Veek, their scales paled. You are bluffing, am I? Check your long-range sensors. If they are still working. One of the Krellian officers ran to a console, working frantically. His face showed shock. Commander, I am detecting multiple human ships entering the system. Fleet strength. They will be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Victor stared at Jake with a mixture of rage and disbelief. This was your plan all along. You were not trying to defeat us militarily. You were just keeping us busy until reinforcements arrived. Partly. But I was also showing you something important. Want to know what? What? That humans do not quit. You came here with 3,000 warriors. You thought that would be enough. You laughed when my people sent one person. But that one person cost you hundreds of casualties, destroyed your supplies, freed your prisoners, and now has a gun pointed at your head. Still think it was funny? The building shook as explosions echoed from outside. The other Krellian positions were being hit. The civilian teams were following the plan, attacking while the enemy was confused and disorganized. Your choice is simple, Jake continued. You can fight. Your warriors will kill some of my people. They might even kill me. But then the human fleet arrives and destroys your forces completely. Or you can surrender. Order your warriors to stand down. Leave this planet peacefully. Either way, you lose. But one way, most of your people survive. Victor looked around at his guards, at his command post, at the tactical display showing his forces in disarray. His entire invasion had collapsed because he had underestimated one human. One person who refused to give up. If I surrender, Victor said slowly, what are your terms? Immediate ceasefire. Your forces withdraw to your ships. You leave this system and do not return. Any Krellian wounded will be treated fairly and returned to you. You would treat our wounded? After we invaded your world? Jake lowered his weapon slightly. We are not monsters. We fight when we must, but we do not torture or abuse prisoners. The human fleet arrived exactly 10 minutes after Jake's signal, just as he had promised. 5 warships, bristling with weapons, taking up orbital positions around Epsilon 7. Their presence made one thing very clear. The Krellian invasion was over. Commander Victor stood on the landing platform, watching his warriors board the transport ships. They moved in silence, their earlier confidence completely gone. Many were wounded. All were defeated. Jake Morrison stood nearby, his rifle slung across his back. He was filthy, exhausted, and running on nothing but determination. But he was still standing, still watching, making sure the Krellians kept their word. I need to understand something, Victor said, without looking at Jake. How did you do it? How did one person defeat 3,000 warriors? Jake was quiet for a moment, watching the Krellian troops file past. I did not defeat 3,000 warriors. You defeated yourselves. Explain. You came here expecting a traditional fight. Army against army. Superior numbers and technology against inferior forces. When my government sent me alone, you laughed. You thought it meant we were weak or desperate. Were you not desperate? We were practical. A large military force would have triggered a bigger response from you. Fleet engagement, orbital bombardment, total war. But one person. You saw that as an insult, not a threat. Your pride made you want to prove something. So you committed your forces to hunting me instead of securing your objectives. Victor's scales darkened. You used our pride against us. I used everything against you. Your pride, your reliance on technology, your assumption that war has to be fought a certain way. You had every advantage except one. What advantage did you have? I knew what I was fighting for. Your warriors were here because they were ordered to be. They were following commands, occupying territory, completing a mission. But I was fighting for people's homes, for families, for children who deserve to grow up safe. That is a different kind of fight. A Krellian transport lifted off, its engines roaring. Victor watched it go. You also had luck. Many times you should have been caught. Many times you should have died. Jake shook his head. It was not luck. It was preparation and adaptation. I studied your tactics before I landed. I learned your patrol patterns within hours. Every time you changed your approach, I changed mine faster. That is not luck. That is training and refusal to quit. Katie Brooks approached, leading a group of Krellian wounded on stretchers. Human medics worked alongside her, treating enemies with the same care they would give their own people. Victor watched them, his expression unreadable. Your people treat our wounded. Why? We invaded your world. We killed your civilians. You should hate us. Some do hate you, Jake admitted. But hate does not help anyone. Those wounded soldiers did not choose to invade. They followed orders, same as soldiers everywhere. Punishing them accomplishes nothing. The Krellian Empire does not show such mercy to defeated enemies. Then maybe the Krellian Empire should learn a different approach. Fear and cruelty might win battles, but they create enemies for generations. Mercy and justice create peace. Sub-Commander Telmark approached, saluting Victor. Commander, the last transport is boarding. All wounded are accounted for. We are ready to depart. Victor nodded. He turned to Jake one final time. What will you tell your leaders about this battle? The truth. That the Krellian Empire invaded, that we defended our colony, that you chose to withdraw rather than fight to the last soldier. That takes courage. I will make sure that is included in my report. Courage? We were defeated by one person. You were smart enough to recognize when continuing would only lead to more death. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. Victor considered this. Then he did something Jake did not expect. He placed his hand over his chest in a Krellian gesture of respect. You are a worthy opponent, Jake Morrison. I am glad we did not meet in a fight to the death. I think you would have won that too. Maybe. Or maybe we both would have lost. This way, we both survive. That is better. The Krellian commander boarded his transport. The ramp closed behind him. Within minutes, the last Krellian ships were lifting off, climbing toward orbit. Lisa Grant stood beside Jake, watching them go. Is it really over? For now. They will report back to their leaders. Maybe the Krellian Empire will decide humanity is too difficult to conquer. Maybe they will try again. But either way, Epsilon 7 is safe. Because of you. Jake shook his head. Because of all of us. You organized the resistance. Katie treated the wounded. Chris provided intelligence. Danny and the others fought when it mattered. I just provided the distraction. Chris Palmer walked up, his arm in a sling from a minor injury during the fighting. Some distraction. The Krellians are calling you the ghost of Epsilon 7 in their communications. They are terrified of you. Good. Fear keeps people cautious. Maybe next time they think about invading a human colony, they will remember this and think twice. The human fleet began landing, bringing medical supplies, construction equipment, and reinforcements. The admiral in charge, a stern woman named Helen Price, met with Jake personally. Captain Morrison, your report has been forwarded to command. The brass is very impressed. You completed your mission with minimal casualties and forced an enemy withdrawal without triggering a larger war. Just doing my job. Admiral, your job was to hold the colony until reinforcements arrived. You exceeded that objective significantly. Admiral Price smiled slightly. I hear the Krellians gave you a nickname. Honey Badger. Yes, Admiral. That has been my call sign for a few years now. It fits. I read about honey badgers once. Small creatures that fight animals 10 times their size. They get hurt but keep fighting. They never give up. She looked at Jake with something like respect. Just like you. Jake did not know what to say to that, so he said nothing. The Admiral continued. Command wants you back on Earth for debriefing, but they also want to know if you would be interested in a new assignment. There are other colonies that might need someone with your particular skills. Other colonies are in danger? Not yet. But tensions with several alien empires are rising. Having someone like you available, someone who can operate independently and adapt to any situation, that could prevent future conflicts. Jake thought about that. Part of him wanted to rest, to recover, to have a normal life for a while. But another part, the part that had earned him the name Honey Badger, knew that there would always be people who needed help. People who could not defend themselves. Colonies at the edge of human space, vulnerable and exposed. Let me help rebuild here first, Jake said. Then we can talk about the next assignment. Admiral Price nodded. Fair enough. Take a week, then report to Fleet Headquarters. Over the following days, Jake helped the colonists repair the damage from the invasion. He worked alongside Danny Price, rebuilding structures. He assisted Katie Brooks in the medical center. He talked with Lisa Grant about defensive improvements for the future. The colonists treated him like a hero, but Jake did not feel like one. He had done what needed to be done. Nothing more. On his last evening on Epsilon 7, Jake sat on a hillside overlooking the colony. The sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Below, lights were coming on as people settled in for the night. Children played in the streets. Families sat down for dinner. Life was returning to normal. Katie Brooks found him there. Mind if I join you? Not at all. She sat beside him, looking at the view. The children asked me to thank you. They wanted to do it themselves, but you are hard to find when you do not want to be found. Jake smiled. Tell them they are welcome. Tell them to study hard and grow up strong. This colony will meet good people in the future. Will you come back? Visit sometime? Maybe. Depends on where the military sends me next. Katie was quiet for a moment. I have been thinking about what you said to Commander Victor. About fighting for something that matters. I want to do that too. You already do. You are a medic. You save lives. I want to do more. I talked to Admiral Price. She said the fleet needs combat medics. People who can work in dangerous situations, who can stay calm under pressure. Jake looked at her with new respect. That is a hard path. You will see things that stay with you forever. So will staying here after what we have been through. At least if I join the fleet, I can help prevent this from happening to other colonies. Then you should do it. The fleet needs people like you. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out. Up there, the human fleet maintained orbit, protecting the colony. Further out, the Krellian ships were retreating, carrying the story of their defeat back to their empire. Jake thought about Commander Victor's question. How did one person defeat 3,000 warriors? The answer was simple but profound. He did not quit. When the situation looked impossible, he adapted. When the enemy had every advantage, he found new ways to fight. When surrender seemed logical, he refused to accept it. That was what made humans dangerous in the galaxy. Not their technology or their numbers or their physical abilities. It was their refusal to give up. Their ability to keep fighting even when all logic said they should stop. Other species saw surrender as rational. When defeat was certain, they accepted it and moved on. But humans were different. Humans were like honey badgers. They fought when they should run. They persisted when